Hello, I'm Llewellyn King, the host of House Chronicle. Welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for coming along. Today we're going to go into a new place, a place where this program has never been anyway, and that is the world of cryptocurrency, blockchains, and everything that is beginning to change the way we think about money. It hasn't done so yet, but certainly it is happening. And I'm very glad to have two well-informed people to help us on this journey today. First of all, particular pleasure to have Perianne Boring, the founder and president of the Chamber of Digital Commerce. Welcome to the broadcast, Perianne.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
And an old friend of this program, Jim McTague, editor-at-large at Barron's, been with the Bureau of Barron's, the financial newspaper here in Washington. Now you're writing books and other interesting things. Do you like writing books?
I love it. I spend 5 to 7 hours a day in a garret, and it's the hardest work I've ever done. And I love to fish, but I'd rather be writing. That's how.
You know, I said to a very talented journalist friend of mine, actually, this was many years ago, and I said, when I saw her many years later, I thought of our set. People who were all young, and so happened it was London together. And I said, well, I thought you would be the writer among us. And she said, Llewellyn, you wouldn't want to lock me away in a room with all those words, would you? Boy, did I know what she meant. Another friend of mine, a writer, I said, why don't you write, or a journalist, why don't you write, as in the large sense of books and magazine articles? And he was a Southern, I can't do Southern accents, but he said, you want to put me in a room with that reproving machine? That was the typewriter. So more power to you. Perianne, you are a very interesting person. Not many people start chambers of commerce, let alone digital chambers of commerce. What does it do, your chamber?
So the Chamber of Digital Commerce is the world's largest trade association that's representing the blockchain technology industry. So we represent over 130 companies that are investing in and innovating with blockchain-based technologies.
You better explain to us what blockchain is.
So blockchain is a value transfer protocol. So it's very similar or synonymous to the internet, where the internet is a protocol to share information. So think of the media industry, language, emails. The internet has completely changed the way we communicate. Well, blockchain is a protocol to trade digital assets. So just like the internet is for information, it's not a great place to trade anything of value. Think about the trillions of dollars worth of cyber attacks that happen each year. So blockchain uses a cryptographically secured protocol for anything of value.
I understand, if I understand this at all, that this is done by linkage, hence the chain. So that if you have something of value and it's put in, sum of money, say, that you're trading or doing something with, it's secure because everybody knows how much it is. You can't change it overnight and double its value or subtract half of it. Is that correct?
So blockchain has solved the double spend problem. So there were digital currencies long before Bitcoin, going back to the 80s. But what blockchain provided was a response to that copy and paste mechanism, which we see with the internet. And they do that through a consensus algorithm. So it's a distributed database. The blockchain is a record of every single transaction that's happened in that network.
Give us a for real example of the kind of asset that will be traded through blockchain.
So the first use case for blockchain was Bitcoin. So most of us has heard about Bitcoin. It's a digital currency. However, blockchains can be used for any type of digital asset, both tangible and intangible. So this could include your identity, like your passport or your driver's license. It could also include the title to your house or your car, or really any type.
If you want to trade your passport, is that what you're saying?
Well, you could have a digital representation of your identity.
Okay, so that when you've lost your passport and you're overseas, there is a secure copy of it, which would not be secure on the internet because other people would have access to it.
Right, so it's a way to secure a type of digital asset, and you could use that for the use case of identity.
What do you think? Is this likely to spread fast? Do you think so? You know something about the financial world, Jim?
In terms of spreading fast, probably not. I don't know where we are in the technology. I know that Wall Street, financial intermediaries have been discussing using blockchain for a variety of purposes, not just the exchange of value, not just for purchases and sales of securities, but the technology is not flexible enough for their needs. So for example, if you're trading stocks, and let's say that when you trade a stock or a fund, an exchange traded fund, there has to be a regulatory disclosure accompanying the transaction. They haven't quite licked that problem yet. I mean, they can transfer X amount of securities from one party to another, but all the associated data, they haven't figured out how to make the blockchain flexible enough for that kind of complex transaction.
What do you say to that, Perianne?
Well, there's actually companies that are using blockchain technology today for private stock trading. So Overstock.com was the first company to accept Bitcoin for payments, but they're also a massive thought leader in the blockchain ecosystem. One of their subsidiaries, his name is T0, they have created a stock market that is based on the Bitcoin blockchain, and today they are trading private shares of Overstock on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Let's talk about Bitcoin a little bit. We've all heard about Bitcoin. Suddenly it's running up in value. People are making a lot of money out of Bitcoin. How can that be? I mean, no other currency is going through the roof in value. The pound isn't, the dollar isn't, the ruble isn't. Why, or the yen isn't. They move up against each other, but they don't go like that. Why is it going like that?
So the economics of Bitcoin are absolutely what first draw me to this ecosystem. It is the top performing currency in the world today.
How do you mean it's the top performing currency?
Well, based on its value. So it really represents a paradigm shift in the way that we look at currencies today. So our monetary system today is controlled by central banks. You have fiat currencies, and they depreciate in value because the central banks are creating inflation through programs like quantitative easing. So as you are holding on to US dollars or any other fiat currency over time, typically the value depreciates because of inflation. With Bitcoin, there's a limited supply of Bitcoin. There's 21 million of Bitcoin, which means the more people demand it, the price actually goes up. So it's creating an incredible amount of wealth.
So it's like gold.
It has been described as gold 2.0 or digital gold because it does have a lot of characteristics.
Who limits the amount in circulation?
So that's how the protocol was written. So the founder of this project, Satoshi Nakamoto, made it so there would be a limited amount supply, and that cannot be changed.
Ever? Won't in the end that destroy it when you get billions of dollars need to be traded and you've got a limited number of Bitcoin?
No, because it can be divisible into many different decimal points. In fact, because of this technology, you can, for the first time, make something like micropayments possible, where you can actually send even fractions of a penny now with this technology. It just means as more people are demanding it, as supply increases, the price per Bitcoin will increase, which is what we're seeing.
So blockchain is based on Bitcoin? Or the protocols are based on the Bitcoin protocols?
So Bitcoin is the native cryptocurrency that is associated with blockchain. And blockchain is the protocol that Bitcoin runs on.
Some people are making enormous sums of money. Two of the people originally involved, brothers who were originally involved in Facebook, have made, I read, billions out of Bitcoin. This seems fantasy. This doesn't seem... and how do you redeem the Bitcoin? Supposing you want to convert it into little old dollars that you can use in the grocery store. I know that Bitcoin hasn't got to my grocery store. How do you convert it into another currency?
So there's exchanges. There's many exchanges throughout the world, and there's many that are regulated by FinCEN in the States here in the U.S. So you would go to an exchange, and they're licensed.
All right, we're in Washington, D.C. Where would I take my Bitcoin to exchange them?
So if you want to use Bitcoin as a currency, there's about 100,000 merchants worldwide that accept Bitcoin for payments today. And so
supposing I just wanted to get dollars.
yeah, so if you wanted to purchase Bitcoin, you could go to an exchange. Coinbase.com is a popular one that's regulated here in the US.
It's all done on the web?
It is done on the web. So
I'm still having a problem understanding, I don't know if you understand this, Jim, the actual point of exchange. When you go, is it a convertible currency? Can it be converted to another currency?
Yes, yes.
So where would I find an exchange that would give me nice crisp dollar bills for my Bitcoin investment?
Well, again, you would want to go to an exchange that's regulated and that's licensed to provide the service. Here in the U.S., a popular consumer application and company would be Coinbase. You would actually link your Coinbase account to your bank account, and you could go vice versa.
Okay,
so you could go.
Now. So it would go into your bank account.
You can with that service, yes.
What you see is the problem which we've seen, which is with people, hackers, demanding ransom paid in Bitcoin.
Yeah, if I understand Bitcoin correctly, the record, the blockchain, is distributed around the world on people's PCs. People actually rent out disk space on their PCs and their laptops for these blockchain records to be stored. And I just don't see why that is secure. For instance, what if somebody gets tired of storing the information on the disk drive because it's slowing down their movie downloads and they don't do it anymore? What happens to the record? What if Kim Jong-il decides to masquerade as some, Silicon Valley nerd with several hundred computers, and he's collecting all this data? It just seems like a fantasy world that you don't have a secure, centralized record keeping.
Centralized. See, that's the key point. So cyber attacks are expected to increase to over $6 trillion a year within the next 5 years. The centralized security system, where you have one server and you have perimeter security around that, is a broken model. We know that because of the amount of attacks that are happening a year. With blockchain technology, you would distribute that. So the risk is.
Who wrote the blockchain?
So there's over 1,000 blockchains in existence today. The first ever blockchain was the Bitcoin blockchain, that was created by Satoshi Nakamoto.
Is that a real person or is that a fiction?
So it's anonymous, and it may be a group of people, we don't know. Or this group of people, or maybe she, have decided to keep their identity anonymous and to actually focus on the technology.
And what is the secret? What is the hook that makes it safe, that it cannot be broken? This knot, what ties this knot that cannot untie?
So there's 4 characteristics to blockchain technologies, 4 key characteristics. One is that it's distributed, so instead of having that centralized security model, you're distributing the risk across many nodes. 2 is that you have a consensus algorithm, so those nodes have rules in which they play, in which they agree.
And who writes all this? This is all developed off that original Bitcoin?
So the original Bitcoin blockchain was, introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto. So this was in the original code that was released open source. But this technology has attracted the most prominent technologists, entrepreneurs, and investors. And the community has taken that open source code of the Bitcoin blockchain, and they're innovating with it. So they're creating new versions of other blockchains. And that's the innovations we're seeing today. So again, it's decentralized. You have a consensus algorithm. The third key characteristic is cryptography. And then the fourth is that it's immutable. So it's append only. You cannot erase information that's been put in a blockchain.
I guess this is the question about what makes it immutable. In science and engineering, anything put together by people can be dismantled by people, but hold the thought for station identification. Primarily for the benefit of our listeners on Sirius XM radio, where this program can be heard 3 times every weekend. You are listening to White House Chronicle from Washington, D.C. this week with myself, Llewellyn King. Our special guest is Perianne Boring, founder and president of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, and Jim McTabe, editor-at-large of Barron's magazine, also the author of many books, including a very good book on the crash, the flash crash. So you obviously are deeply interested in how we secure these financial entities, and we'll get back to that. This program can be seen on 200 American television stations and around the world on the English language broadcasts of Voice of America. Back to this immutable. In all other human endeavors, you can pretty well dismantle things. I'm not trying to be argumentative because I'm deeply curious. But this is absolute, like gold is absolute. Okay? If it's 24 karat, not if it's less. My father did some gold mining. We don't have any gold. I'm deeply curious as to how people who are not technologically skilled, or at least not skilled in computers, can understand this and feel comfortable with it. Is there a primer? Is there some way that you can, draw the veil and a eureka moment? I understand it.
So blockchain technology is infrastructure. I personally believe that not everybody needs to understand exactly how it works under the hood to be able to benefit from it. Very similar to automobiles and cars. Most people don't necessarily know all the mechanics behind a car.
That's a good question.
But they can still benefit from it. So where we are now is in very early days of building out this critical infrastructure called blockchain, and it needs to be consumer friendly. It needs to be usable. We're not quite there yet as an industry, but we're getting there.
And what is your chamber, what does it do? What is its role? Is it a clearinghouse? Is it a lobbying organization? Is it a do-good organization, a kind of charity for blockchain? What is its role?
So our mission is to promote the acceptance and use of digital assets and blockchain-based technologies. And we do that mostly through working on issues of public policy. So we do think regulation.
We've got some stills here of conferences you've been at, organized. Do you do a lot of that?
We have done, yeah, we do. Our keystone event is the DC Blockchain Summit. We do this in March every year. We do it in partnership with Georgetown University and its event where we bring our members, and we also invite the government to have a day-long discussion about public policy and the challenges to blockchain.
You're an old financial reporter, not old in years, but old in the sense of having been on the beat for a long time. Do you see a crying need for regulation here? It's interesting to me that Georgetown University is involved.
Well, I'm a great believer in self-regulation. I mean, federal regulator, I actually believe that we could do as well without the Securities and Exchange Commission as we do with the Securities and Exchange Commission. But having said that, I'm very skeptical when I hear people say that we have this technology and it's tamper-proof, because I've just seen throughout my career the enterprise and of the crooked class. I mean, we saw it in the flash crash on Wall Street, where people manipulated algorithms used to trade on Wall Street to cheat the markets, and that was one of the.
It's a very good book. Still, it's still very interesting.
Well, thank you. And I just don't buy that there's somebody out there that doesn't know how to take apart a blockchain. The other thing is that since the founders are anonymous, I mean, let's put on our conspiracy theory hats. How do we know that they're the good guys? How do we know that they're not the bad guys setting up all the sheep for a shearing down the road?
Well, again, this is a paradigm shift in terms of finance, but also cybersecurity. So instead of having a leader or one particular person who's heading a company or it's an organization, it's decentralized, where there is no leader, and that you have many decentralized participants who are equal in value and who all have the opportunity to participate in this ecosystem.
What is the largest financial institution that you have as a member?
We represent a number of major financial institutions as well as technology companies. So Cisco is a member, IBM is a member, Microsoft is a member, Accenture is a member, the largest derivatives exchange in the world, the CME is a member, who just announced they'll be doing Bitcoin futures, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. All the major banks, all the major exchanges are involved and are participating and are investing and innovating with this.
So what does this do to currency speculation? Currency speculation has made people like George Soros, who I know slightly, it made them very wealthy.
Yeah, we haven't quite gotten there. So there's a couple of exchanges who have announced that they plan to issue Bitcoin futures. Two of them are the CME and NASDAQ, and there's a few others. This hasn't started yet. I do believe that once these products get approved, it's going to create an amazing amount of liquidity, but also, again, a lot of wealth for those who are participating in this ecosystem.
What's it going to do to the average Joe, who is already a little bemused by his or her bank and how they charge? And when I ran a small business, I was always helping staff just with mortgages. They would get into the wrong thing when there was a better mortgage available. How are they going to deal with this? Won't they be sort of overwhelmed by this thing they cannot see and cannot hold in their hands, but which will control their financial destiny?
It's creating an incredible amount of wealth for people all over the world and people who don't have access to the financial system today. According to the World Bank, 74% of the world's population does not have access to basic financial services. Bitcoin and blockchain technology is open source, which means anyone can access it and participate in this ecosystem. So for those who are involved, as the demand and the supply continues to increase, those who are involved are going to continue to create wealth out of this.
Venezuela has just announced that it's going to have a cryptocurrency, a Bitcoin type of its own. It's a basket case financially. It's down the tubes, whatever way you describe it. It hasn't worked. Their brand of command economy has not worked. What happens when you bring a new cryptocurrency, and how does it speak to other cryptocurrencies?
This is such a fascinating topic, and this is going to continue to really make rumbles on the world stage. So I just returned from Singapore, where I participated in an event with the Monetary Authority of Singapore, who has tokenized their fiat currency, the Singaporean dollar, on not one but three different blockchains.
What is I think I know what the word fiat means. What does fiat currency mean to you? I see it a lot when I was researching this program.
Well, fiat currency is a form of religion to me, that you accept the fact that that piece of paper that the Federal Reserve prints is a store of value, that it is a medium of exchange, that someone will give me $1's worth of goods for the piece of paper with $1 on it that I give them, assuming that the dollar is actually worth 100 cents at that point. Fiat currency also is unstable because a government or a central bank.
A traditional currency, in other words.
Right, yes, they can devalue that currency.
And down,
what we're used to today, but we're currently in a global monetary experiment. Used to, most currencies, government-sponsored currencies, were backed by commodities like gold and silver, and we just closed the gold window in the United States in 1971. So it's really not that far off, and we're really not far down in this fiat experiment that we're in, and introducing a new type of currency or a way to back a currency is not too different than history we have seen.
So you've got to be, at this point, careful of the currency you go into, right? Would it be superior to go into Bitcoin, not into Venezuelan, whatever they call it?
So I don't see it that way. I think in a free country, people should have the option to choose whatever they want to use to trade goods and services, whether that's something the government provides as a government-sponsored medium of exchange, if it's a commodity like gold and silver, or if it's something as innovative as a cryptocurrency.
Fiat currency is a government-provided. I mean, the government prints the money, the government certifies its value, the government's
It's backed by the full faith and credit of the government.
Yeah, and it goes up and down, and it does in all countries, except some have just made such a mess of it, like Zimbabwe, where there is no currency. It got to $1 trillion banknote, and that was the end of that. And they're going to have to come back. They may try to come back with a cryptocurrency. I don't know. They're going to have to do something because I was born and grew up in Zimbabwe, so I have an interest.
Well, the other thing you could argue is that the dollar, although it's no longer backed by gold, you can go out and buy American real estate with it. You can buy all kinds of goods in America, which is why the Chinese are coming over here in droves and spending their dollars buying condominiums, investing in business, because this is a great country to set up a business. So the dollar is still a store of value, and it is backed by the United States economy. People want to be, now Bitcoin, I have a question. If it keeps on appreciating like gold, like a store of value, why exchange it? Why not sit on it? And then if people sit on it because they assume that it's going to keep appreciating, it's no longer a medium of exchange. So
is it a liquid currency? I mean, is it available? Are people selling it and buying it like the stock market, where they're willing
that's
buyers
a great
and
point.
sellers?
Not really. And here in the United States, there's a massive barrier to being able to use it as a currency, and that's the way we tax it. So the IRS has determined that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies will be taxed as property, not as currency, which means that as it appreciates in value, you're subject to capital gains. The accounting behind that is such a nightmare that it's made it a barrier to be able to use it for currency. So today, people aren't.
Do you lobby? Do you go up to Capitol Hill and say, this is a nightmare, you've got to fix it?
Yeah, because that's the truth.
And how are you received on Capitol Hill?
So when we first got started, we opened the doors to the chamber in July of 2014. Pretty much the only thing people knew about Bitcoin is that people were using it to either buy illegal drugs or ransomware. It was not, great PR, so it was really difficult to have conversations with policymakers. However, today we've made much progress, and today we have a congressional blockchain caucus where we have a number of blockchain caucus.
Blockchain caucus on Capitol Hill. How many members?
Last time I checked, there was 15 members.
Wow.
So it's chaired by Representative Swikert of Arizona and Jared Polis of Colorado.
That's very interesting. How did you get into this? You used to work on Capitol Hill.
So I first learned about Bitcoin through my work as on Capitol Hill as an economist, when I first learned that there was this currency that was not controlled or operated by the government or a corporation or any organization. To me, that concept was fascinating. So I followed this for many years. And then after studying it, I came to the realization that this is the most important thing I will see in my entire lifetime and have to work in this industry. And that's when we founded the Chamber.
And you started the Chamber, and is it a for-profit organization, or is it
we're a not-for-profit.
Not-for-profit. And so you're doing this because you really believe in the technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have gotten a lot of technology wrong. I was dubious about the internet. I was dubious about a lot of things. So, Perianne, I'm going to watch this with great interest, and I hope you'll come back and talk to us in the future about it. You're dubious, I can tell from your...
Well, I am. I'm skeptical because I've seen manias on Wall Street. I've read the history of manias, and when you see Bitcoin appreciate the way it is, what is it, up 1,000%? Or
That's incredible.
More than that.
It's time for us to get out of this. Come back, both of you, and let's see where we go with blockchain. That's our program for today. Thank you for coming along. We will see you next week on the same stations with another, I hope, interesting show. Cheers.